The satin robe slipped out of Makina's hands like it was trying to run and take her paycheck with it. 1 second it was bunched in her fist. The next, it slid through her wet fingers, caught the cold rooftop air, and floated over the edge of the infinity pool. "If this robe goes, my rent goes," she whispered, stumbling after it. Quito's inhaler, the hospital bill, the landlord's warning note, all flashed through her mind in one hard punch. The robe landed on the water. White silk spread over the blue light and began to drift while panic rose. Makina dropped to her knees at the pool's edge, one hand on the tile, the other reaching so far her shoulder burned. "Come on, please," she breathed. The water slid over her fingertips. The robe stayed just out of reach. If you were standing where she was right now, watching a whole month of survival float away while nobody even knew your name, what would you honestly do? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Bass from the party below thumped under her knees. Up here, the only sound was the slap of water and Makina's shaky breath. "Grab it, Makina. You cannot lose this," she muttered. She pushed her body forward, sneaker toes hanging over the edge, arms stretching so far she thought something might tear. Her fingers brushed silk for half a second. The robe spun away again. She bit back a curse. The worn maid uniform pulled tight across her back as she leaned, the old zipper digging into her skin. She saw her aunt staring at the empty space where this week's money was supposed to be. The satin slid closer to the dark center of the pool. Makina reached again, desperate enough to almost dive. Her knee slipped on a thin sheet of water. Her body jerked forward, and she yanked herself back with a sharp gasp, heart pounding. The sudden pull was too much for the tired safety pin, holding the back of her uniform together. It snapped with a tiny metallic pop. Cold air rushed across her shoulder blades. The fabric fell open down her spine. "No, not now," she choked, trying to grab the edges with one hand while still reaching for the robe with the other. The movement only dragged the uniform wider. The tattoo between her shoulders came into the open, every dark line clear under the pool lights. Her skin prickled, every hair on her arm standing up. The rooftop had been empty when she came out. She had checked. Now the silence felt different, heavier, like someone else was standing in it with her. Makina stopped reaching. Her fingers hovered over the water. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears so loud she almost missed the sound behind her. Shoe soles on wet tile, slow and steady. She didn't turn. Her mind raced. Security? A server? Mrs. Alvarez? A presence settled over her instead, heavy and cold, pressing between her bare shoulder blades without touching. Whoever it was, their eyes were locked on her back, on the ink that had never felt dangerous until this second. The robe kept drifting, but the fear of losing it started to feel smaller than the fear crawling up her spine. Very slowly, Makina pushed herself up from her knees and turned toward the far side of the rooftop. The pool lights caught the edge of a black shirt first, then the line of a jaw. Then the outline of a man standing there, half in shadow, city lights behind him. Cassian Reeve. The name on the tower, the name on her paycheck. He was supposed to be a rumor the staff traded in the break room, not a real person on the pool deck. Yet he stood there, still and silent, like he had been right there, watching her always. His gaze wasn't on her face. It was locked on the tattoo spread across her bare back, eyes narrowed like he recognized it and hated that it existed. The robe bumped softly against the side of the pool and began to sink, white silk folding into the dark. Makina opened her mouth, ready to beg, to promise, to explain. Cassian spoke first, his voice quiet but sharp enough to cut through every word she didn't get to say. "Where?" he asked. "Did you get that mark? Where did you get that mark?" He didn't shout. He didn't move. But the way he said it made Makina feel like she was already on trial. Her fingers dug into the ripped back of her uniform. "Sir, the robe. I'm really sorry. It slipped. I'll pay for it, I promise. Take it from my check or cut my hours. Just please don't fire me, The robe is not the problem." He sliced through her apology like it was nothing. "I really need this job," she rushed on. "My brother is sick. My aunt is behind on rent. The hospital keeps calling. If I lose this..." "Where did you get that mark?" he repeated, slower. "Answer the question." Makina tried to keep her voice steady. "It's just a tattoo, sir. It's not gang stuff. It's just art. I got it because I liked how it looked." Something flickered across his face, a tightening around his eyes, a shadow she did not understand. "Just art," he said. The glass door at the far side of the rooftop slid open. Heavy steps crossed wet tile. 2 security guards walked into view, dark suits, earpieces, faces blank. They looked at Makina, at her exposed back, at Cassian. "Sir, if the tattoo is a problem, I can cover it," she said quickly. "I didn't know anyone important would ever see it. I'll wear extra shirts, "Turn around," he said. She froze. "What?" "Turn around," he repeated, eyes on the gap in the fabric. "Let me see it." Turning her back on a billionaire and 2 guards while her uniform hung open felt stupid and dangerous, but saying no felt worse. Slowly, Makina turned. Cold air brushed her bare shoulder blades. The uniform sagged open. The tattoo sat in the middle of her back, dark lines and sharp curves, bright under the pool lights. For the first time, it did not feel like a brave choice. It felt like a target. Silence dropped over the rooftop. Cassian stared. Seconds stretched. The only sounds were the soft slosh of water and Makina's pulse pounding in her ears. "What does it mean to you?" he asked at last. She blinked. "What?" "The tattoo," he said. "What does it mean to you?" "Nothing deep," she said. "I was 18. I wanted something that made me feel stronger, not invisible. The artist said it meant freedom, rising again. Some phoenix story. I just liked it." "Some phoenix story," he echoed. "If it breaks a rule, I'm sorry," she added fast. "I'm not trying to disrespect your company. I didn't even know you would ever see it." "The company doesn't know this symbol exists," he said. She frowned. "What do you mean?" "It was on the wall at the shop. In the book, he showed me." One of the guards shifted. Cassian lifted a hand without looking at him. The man went still again. "If it's not about the robe," she whispered, "and it's not about me breaking a dress code, then what is this about? What did I do wrong?" Cassian took a step toward her, then another. He stopped close enough that she could see the small scar along his jaw, but his eyes stayed on the mark across her back. "You didn't do anything wrong," he said quietly. "That's the problem." She almost laughed. "Then why do you look like you want to throw me off this roof?" "You say it's just art," he said, "but that mark is not random. It was never public. It was never in a catalog or on a website. Only a few people ever saw that design." "I don't get it," Makina said. "I'm not one of those people. I grew up nowhere near your world. I saw it on a page. I paid cash. That's it." "Where exactly did you get it?" he asked. "Name the shop." "Ink Haven," she answered. On Fulton, between the pawn shop and that tiny church with the loud choir. The artist said it suited me. Why? Cassian went very still. Ink Haven burned down 10 years ago, he said. The owner died in the fire. So did the basement where he kept my original designs. Her mouth went dry. Your designs? He studied her like she was something impossible. Then he gave her the one answer that made every normal fear she'd ever had feel small. Because I designed that mark, he said, and you were never supposed to have it. I designed that mark, and you were never supposed to have it. 12 hours before Cassian said those words, Makina was just a tired maid in a steel elevator. She clenched her first paycheck so tight the envelope bent. 1 month, she whispered. Please let this cover 1 month. Rent, Quito's medicine, a little food. If she kept this job, maybe nursing school wasn't a stupid dream. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out. Auntie flashed on the screen. The elevator rattled past a floor where people in suits walked on marble she scrubbed. Makina's thumb hovered over accept, then slid to the side. Not now, she muttered. If I'm late again, they'll cut my hours. She hit silent and slid the phone away. The elevator dinged. At staff level, the doors opened on bleach, steam, and clattering carts. Makina, you're late. Mrs. Alvarez stood waiting, tablet in her arms, eyebrows high. I'm sorry, Makina said fast. The bus broke down. I ran here. Buses don't clean floors, Mrs. Alvarez said. You know that's what Mr. Reeve would say. I know, Makina answered, shoulders dipping. It won't happen again. I really need this job. The older woman's gaze dropped to the envelope. First paycheck? Makina nodded. Yes, ma'am. You earned it, Mrs. Alvarez said. But listen, this building is not like the others. One mistake here can be your last. I'll try not to make any, Makina said. There is no try, Mrs. Alvarez replied. She tapped her tablet. We need someone on the rooftop tonight. Private gathering. After they finish, you go up. Final sweep. The rooftop? Makina asked. With the pool? Yes. You go up when I call. You clean. You leave, Mrs. Alvarez said. No photos, no talking to guests if they're still there, no staring at rich people even if they act crazy. Up there, you are invisible. Understand? Makina nodded. Extra time meant extra money. I'll be careful. The boss doesn't like surprises, Mrs. Alvarez added. He doesn't like staff becoming visible. Visible. The word stung, but Makina swallowed it. I'm not looking for attention. I just want to work and send money home. If that's true, you might survive, Mrs. Alvarez said. Her eyes ran down Makina's uniform, stopping at the worn zipper on her back. Make sure your clothes hold. Up there, everything shows. And if Mr. Reeve notices you for the wrong reason, you're done. Do you hear me? In Makina's head, wrong reason meant spilled champagne, broken glass, a wet floor, fired, blacklisted. Yes, ma'am, she said softly. No wrong reasons. If your whole family's safety sat in one thin envelope, and someone warned you that one slip could erase it, how steady do you think your hands would be? Clock in, Mrs. Alvarez said, voice gentler. Cart check in 10. I'll send you up when they're done. Makina pushed the envelope deep into her pocket and clocked in. She cleaned the first rooms on autopilot. Her phone buzzed once against her hip, right there beside her. She pressed her palm over it and kept wiping until her reflection in the glass looked calm again. People see girls like her in uniforms every day and never ask what they're carrying on their backs. If you ever walked past someone like Makina and didn't look twice, maybe you will now. By the time she rolled her cart back into storage, the small staff window showed the city as a spread of lights. Somewhere above that waited the rooftop pool behind glass. Mrs. Alvarez appeared again. "Rooftop's clearing. Take the service elevator. Leave it spotless. And remember, no surprises," Makina said. "And no wrong reasons," Mrs. Alvarez added. "Cameras see more than you think." Makina nodded. The warning crawled under her skin, but the weight of the envelope in her pocket pushed her forward. She walked to the service elevator, hit the top button, and stepped inside when the doors opened. In the metal walls, she saw herself again. Same uniform, same tired eyes, same hope that this job would finally be the one that stayed. When the doors slid open at the rooftop level, cool air drifted in, carrying the faint smell of chlorine and money. Makina stepped out, took a breath like she was crossing an invisible line, and headed toward the pool, not knowing the wrong reason. Waiting for her up there was not a spill or a broken glass, but the secret burned into her own skin. The robe should have just been laundry. Makina knew it the second the server shoved it into her arms on the rooftop. White satin, heavy and warm, with gold letters stitched over the chest. "Boss's guest forgot this," he said, already turning away. "Mrs. A said send it down before it gets ruined." Then he was gone, leaving her alone with the glowing pool, the glass edge, and the kind of fabric she only touched with gloves. She held it tighter. "Okay," she whispered. "Don't slip. Don't fall. Don't screw this up." Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She set a glass on the cart, shifted the robe into one arm, and answered. "Hello?" "Baby girl," her aunt said, voice lazy with tired humor. "You sound high up. You on the rich floor?" Makina looked at the city beyond the glass. "Rooftop," she said. "After-party cleanup." "Describe it," her aunt said. "Let me pretend I left this couch." Makina tucked the phone to her shoulder, picked up another glass. "Big pool, blue lights under the water. Looks like the whole city is floating in it. Empty chairs, empty bottles. It smells like perfume and money." Her aunt laughed, then coughed. The cough dragged on, rough and dry. Makina stopped moving. "You okay?" "I'm fine," her aunt said. "Keto is the one doing the most coughing these days." "How is he?" Makina asked. The robe felt heavier. "He's fine, for now," her aunt said. Those last two words hit harder than she liked. "What did the doctor say?" "That he doesn't like missed refills," her aunt murmured. "Says lungs don't care that prices went up again. Says if we forget the inhaler one more time, we might see him in the ER instead." Makina shut her eyes for a second. "I got my first check today," she said. "I'll send money tomorrow. We'll cover the inhaler and some food, I promise." "You always promise," her aunt said, not unkind. "I just hate that you have to scrub other people's shine so we can breathe." "It's temporary," Makina said. 2 years, maybe 3. Then nursing school, then real money. You'll retire and annoy the nurses instead of paying them." Her aunt snorted. "Please, I already annoy you for free." Makina smiled. "True." Silence hummed for a moment. The water moved. "Sometimes I think this company cursed us," her aunt said quietly. "Every time their name shows up on a wall or a bill, something breaks near us. A job, a pipe, a body." Makina's stomach dipped. She glanced at the Reeve logo on the towel cart, on her name badge, on the pay stub in her pocket. "Don't say that," she said. "Why?" "Because I'm standing in their tower," Makina answered. "If I start calling it a curse, I'll start shaking. Then I really will drop something, and they'll toss me out before I can send anything home." Her aunt sighed. I just don't want them to chew you up like they did your mother. I'm not Mom, Makina said softly. I've got a plan. I'm not staying a maid forever. You sure you're okay? Her aunt asked. You sound tired. I'm good, Makina lied. I'm eating. Mrs. Alvarez keeps yelling at me. That means I'm still useful. If you pass out on that roof, tell them to send you home in a gold car, her aunt said. We can at least enjoy the view. Makina laughed, even as her eyes burned. Kiss Quito for me. I'll call tomorrow after I send the money. We love you, her aunt said. Come home in one piece. The call ended. For a second, Makina just stood there, robe in her arms, phone in her hand, city at her feet. Two worlds stacked on top of each other, one full of glass and light, one full of pill bottles and late notices. Imagine watching someone you love count pills while strangers swim in money above their heads. If that picture hurts even a little, don't let it fade. She slipped the phone back into her pocket and shifted the robe, cradling it with both hands now. Okay, she told it. Laundry, then bus, then home. Don't try anything stupid. She turned toward the elevator, eyes on the gold stitching instead of the floor. Because of that, she didn't see the thin sheet of water spread across the tile like clear ice. Her foot came down, and the ground instantly disappeared from under her. Her foot slid out from under her before she even knew the floor was wet. 1 second, she was walking toward the elevator with the robe pressed to her chest. The next, her heel hit the hidden puddle and her whole body jerked sideways. The satin flew. No, Makina shouted, grabbing at air. Her fingers caught only a loose edge. The robe tore free, twisting away like it had been waiting all night to escape her hands. It sailed over the clean line of the infinity pool. She stumbled, arms flailing, her hip slammed into the rail. Pain shot down her leg. The robe hit the water with a soft splash. It didn't sink right away. White silk spread across the blue surface, glowing under the pool lights, drifting toward the deep end like it had all the time in the world. No, 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 she whispered. Makina dropped to her knees and crawled to the edge of the pool, one hand clawing at the tile, the other reaching as far as it could. Rent, she breathed. Her fingertips skimmed the water. Bills, bus fare, Quito's inhaler, food. It felt like she was watching each word float away with the robe. She leaned farther. Her toes curled against the tile as her body slid closer to the drop. Her shoulder burned, but the silk stayed just an inch beyond her reach. Come on, she begged. Please, please. A small wave rolled under the robe and lifted it just out of range. It glided to the side, lazy and slow. She tried to follow it on her knees. Her palm slipped on the thin film of water under her. Her weight pitched forward. For one awful second, she saw herself falling in, uniform soaking through, lungs filling, the robe bobbing above her like a rich person's joke. Makina yanked herself back with a sharp gasp, dragging her knees against the tile. The sudden pull was too much for the old safety pin at the back of her uniform. It snapped with a tiny metallic pop. The back seam gave way. Fabric slid off her shoulders, dropping open down her spine. Cold air slapped her bare skin. Not now, she hissed, grabbing at the loose cloth with one hand, while still reaching for the robe with the other. The more she pulled, the more the uniform slid apart. The tattoo between her shoulder blades came into full view, dark ink shining under the pool lights. She almost forgot the robe for half a heartbeat. The robe drifted again, gold letters flashing on the wet fabric. Focus, Makina, she muttered. Grab it. Think later. She stretched until her ribs ached. Her fingers slipped under the surface, cutting through cold water, chasing the white blur. Another inch. Just one more inch. Her knee slid. Her sneaker squeaked. Her weight rolled toward the deep end. She froze, muscles shaking, every part of her screaming not to fall. The pool shifted. A small ripple sent the robe drifting back toward her lane. For one brief, perfect second, it lined up with her hand. Makina lunged. Her fingers closed over a handful of wet silk. Relief hit so fast it almost really took her breath. She dragged the robe toward her chest, whispering, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." The soaked fabric slipped straight through her shaking grip. The robe slid back into the water and glided away again, this time farther, toward the darker patch where the lights were weaker. Her breath broke. "You have got to be kidding me. Ever had one tiny mistake change everything you were trying to fix? If that memory hits you, you're not alone." She stayed on her knees, front of her uniform soaked, back hanging open, chest rising, and falling too fast. The water went quiet. The city buzzed beyond the glass. That was when she saw it, not above the pool, but inside it. In the smooth surface beside the drifting robe, a darker shape slid into view. A pair of polished shoes, still, facing her, close enough to be real, too sharp to be imagined. Her heart jumped into her throat. Someone was standing behind her, watching her kneel, watching her fight for the robe, watching the tattoo she never meant to show anyone here. Heat rushed up her neck. "Please," she begged inside her own head, every nerve on fire. "Please let it be anyone but him." Makina turned and met Cassian Reeves' eyes. "Stand up." Cassian's voice was calm, but it hit Makina harder than if he had yelled. She was still on her knees by the pool, knees wet, hands shaking, back open to the air. She tried to pull the torn uniform tighter. "Sir, I'm so sorry about the robe. It slipped. I'll replace it. I'll work double. Please don't." "Stand up." He didn't raise his tone. He didn't need to. The two security guards behind him did all the talking with their faces, blank and alert. Makina pushed herself to her feet. Her legs wobbled. The soaked front of her uniform clung to her, the back hanging open, tattoo burning under his stare. "I know it looks bad," she said, words rushing out. "But I didn't steal anything. I didn't touch the guests. The robe just—" "The robe," Cassian cut in, "is not what I'm looking at." Her mouth snapped shut. He stepped closer to the edge of the pool, eyes on the ink between her shoulders. "Turn around." She gripped the front of her uniform. "Sir, please, I can explain. I really need this job. My family depends on it. If you just let me pay for the robe, I swear—" "Turn around," he repeated. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to run, but her feet stayed on the tile. If she walked away now, it was over. If she stayed, it might already be over. Slowly, Makina turned her back to him. Night air slid over her shoulders. Water dripped from her braids. The tattoo sat there on her skin, lit by the pool like a target drawn with care. Silence wrapped around them. Even the water seemed to wait. She could feel his eyes tracing every stroke. "What does it mean to you?" Cassian asked at last. His voice was lower now. Makina swallowed. "The tattoo?" "Yes." "It doesn't really mean anything," she said. "Not like that. I was 18. I wanted something that felt strong. The artist said it was a phoenix, new life, freedom." "You picked it from where?" he asked. "A book on the counter," she said. "Binder," I pointed. "He said it was special." "Special," Cassian repeated, like the word tasted wrong. I didn't know it was a problem, she added. If it breaks a rule, I can cover it. Long shirts, bandages, whatever you want. Where did you get it? He asked. Name the place. Her mouth went dry. For a second, the answer slipped from her mind, replaced by pressure in her chest. She blinked. The memory snapped back in pieces. A buzzing needle, speakers, a flicker in the lights. Ink Haven, she said. Downtown, between a pawn shop and a little church. It was my birthday. I saved all year. Something in his face shut down. Not anger, not shock. Something tighter, like panic behind glass. When? He asked. 2 years ago, she said. 18. I don't remember the exact date. Try, he said. His tone turned the word into an order. Makina's head throbbed as she reached back in her mind. She saw a hallway that didn't belong to Ink Haven, smoke crawling along a ceiling, heat on her face, someone shouting her name. The image flashed so fast it made her sway. I don't know, she whispered. I thought it was a normal day. I went in after my shift. I picked the design. I paid cash. That's it. Cassian let out a breath. He stared past her like he was seeing a different roof, a different night. Ink Haven burned down 10 years ago, he said. The owner died in the fire. The basement, his files, his drawings, gone. Makina turned her head just enough to see him over her shoulder. That's not possible. I was there. I sat in the chair. I walked past the church. I remember the bell. He shook his head. You remember something. I'm not sure it's the truth. She felt like the tiles under her feet tilted. So, what are you saying? That I imagined a tattoo shop? That this ink appeared by itself? No, he said. His gaze dropped to the mark again, and his jaw tightened. I'm saying that symbol was never meant to be on anyone's skin again. Why? She asked. Cassian hesitated, as if pulling words through broken glass. That symbol was for a project my mother ran, he said at last. She destroyed every last one. So how are you wearing it? You can't just lock me up. The words jumped out before Makina could stop them. The guards were already moving toward her, shoes quiet on the wet tile, like this was normal. She backed up, one hand clutching the torn front of her uniform. I have family waiting, she said. My aunt, my little brother. They'll think something happened to me. Cassian didn't flinch. Something has happened to you, he said. You just don't see it yet. I'm a maid who slipped, she shot back. That's it. Fire me if you want, but you don't get to lock me up like I'm a criminal. I didn't ask for your tattoo nightmare. One guard's mouth twitched, then flattened. Cassian's face stayed carved from stone. Call it protection or prison, he said. Tonight it's the same thing. The guard on her left reached for her elbow. Makina jerked her arm away. Don't touch me, she snapped. I can walk. Cassian's eyes lifted to the camera in the corner, its red light blinking. Everyone on my security team saw that tattoo the second your uniform ripped, he said. Screens lit up. Radio chatter started. You are not invisible anymore, Makina. She hated the way he used her name. So blur the footage, she said. Delete it. You're the boss. Fix it and let me go home. I can't delete their memories, he replied. Or their phones if someone recorded it. Her stomach dipped. Someone recorded me? He didn't answer, but the silence was enough. In a tower built on secrets, someone always hit save. What if I promise not to tell anyone? She said. You said the symbol was dangerous. Fine. I'll never talk about it. I'll quit tonight. I'll disappear. And the people who already saw it? He asked. The ones who know what it means? Do you think they'll let you ride the bus home and forget you exist? The guard on her right shifted, gaze flicking to Cassian, then away. Makina caught that look. Fear crawled up her spine. There are people in this building I don't control as much as I should, Cassian said quietly. Some of them answer to my last name. Some answer to a paycheck from somewhere else. And you expect me to trust you more than them? She asked. You're the one giving orders to lock me up. I'm the one not pretending you're safe out there, he replied. The rooftop went still. Even the water felt like it was listening. My aunt will call if I don't come home, she warned. She'll make noise. Then I'll make sure someone answers and says you're working overtime, Cassian said. She won't panic yet. You thought this through, Makina muttered. No, he said. I'm trying not to miss anything and hoping that's enough. That shook her more than if he'd claimed control. The guard reached for her arm again, slower. Ma'am, he said, voice low. Please. She could fight and be dragged, or walk and keep one thin slice of control. Makina let him take her elbow. If this is some rich man game, she told Cassian, I swear I will find a way to burn it down around you. His gaze dropped to the tattoo once more. That's what I'm afraid of, he said. From you, or from them. They walked her to the service elevator. The doors slid open with a soft chime. Inside, the guard tapped a code she couldn't see. The doors closed, sealing her away from the pool and the drowned robe. As the elevator moved, Makina stared at her warped reflection. I should scream, she whispered. Hit the alarm. Make a scene. The guard beside her shook his head. Won't help you, he said quietly. Wrong people answering tonight. She turned to him. Warning or threat? His jaw clenched. Just saying it before I can't say anything at all. The elevator hummed upward. Floor numbers blinked and vanished. Her mind spun between choices. Kick, run, beg, bargain. None of them felt real against the memory of Cassian calling her tattoo a death sentence. While she argued with herself in that steel box, somewhere else in the tower, a different screen glowed. In a dark room, an unknown figure replayed the rooftop footage. Makina by the pool, the robe, the rip, the flash of ink. The figure zoomed in on the tattoo, then on her face, and typed, "Found one." She has the mark. She's still inside. Send. The reply came quick. Keep eyes on her. Do not move on Reeve yet. The elevator slowed. Makina didn't know any of that. All she knew was the tight knot in her chest and the sound of her own breathing. The doors slid open onto a hallway she had never cleaned. Soft lights, thick carpet, no carts, no noise. The guard led her to a door at the end, entered another code, and pushed it open. The room inside was huge. Windows, a bed, a couch. She stepped in on shaky legs. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Then she heard it, the heavy slide of a bolt locking into place. Makina stared at the door, back still cold, where the air had touched the tattoo. What did you drag me into, Cassian Reeve? She whispered. The room was too big to breathe in. That was Makina's first thought when she turned away from the locked door and saw it all at once. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a bed wider than her whole bedroom, a couch softer than any seat she had ever paid for. Too big, too quiet, too not mine, she muttered. No humming pipes, no neighbors arguing, just the soft buzz of the city far below and the faint hum of air she didn't control. She took a few steps forward, fingers still pressed to the torn back of her uniform. If this is a kidnapping, it's a fancy one, she told herself. Congratulations, Makina. You finally made it to the rich side. as a locked guest. A door on the right led to a bathroom. She walked in and flicked on the light. White tile, gold fixtures, a mirror that showed her from head to toe. She forced herself to turn around. The back of her uniform gaped open, fabric pulled to the sides by her own grip. In the mirror, the tattoo sat clear between her shoulders, dark wings, sharp lines, ink like a scar drawn on purpose. She stared at it. "Why did I even get you?" she asked the reflection. Because it was cute? Because the artist told a good story? Or because something in me already knew? The word phoenix echoed in her head. Kids, fire, death. The thought of flames made her throat tighten. Heat pressed against her skin, not from the bathroom light, but from somewhere else, some hallway filled with smoke that she could almost see, and then lost again. "Stop," she whispered. "You're freaking yourself out." She let the uniform fall back into place and turned away from the mirror. Her phone. She needed her phone. If she called Auntie now, she could say, "I'm okay, I'm at work, don't panic." Maybe her own heart would believe it. Makina dug the phone from her pocket and checked the screen. No bars. She stepped closer to the window. Still nothing. She moved around the room, arm up like she was trying to tune an old radio. The signal icon stayed empty. Of course, they would lock the door and kill the signal. Protection or prison. Same thing. She pictured Auntie looking at the clock. She pictured Quito waking up wheezing, asking, "Is Makena home yet?" All they had was her promise that she would come back, and right now, she couldn't send even one simple text that said, "I'm alive." Imagine someone you love just didn't come home one night, and no one would tell you why. If that thought stings, someone in your life might be living it right now. She sat on the edge of the huge bed. It felt wrong to sink into something this soft, while her chest felt this tight. "Who are you, when no one owns your name tag?" she whispered. "Because right now, I feel like I belong to this building more than I belong to myself." More questions crowded in. Why did Cassian care so much about a drawing his mother used to use? Why did he talk like people might kill over it? Why did the word phoenix feel like something ripped out of her, not something she'd just heard tonight? Makina stood again, too restless to stay still. She walked to the window, looked down at the tiny cars below, then pressed her forehead against the glass. "I should not be here," she said. "I should be on the bus, half asleep, smelling fries and cheap perfume, not in some glass box with a broken uniform and a cursed tattoo." A knock cut through her thoughts. "What now?" she called. "Another prison upgrade?" There was a pause. She could almost feel him on the other side of the door, weighing what to say. "Open up," Cassian's voice said. "It's locked," she answered. "Your men made sure of that." A soft beep sounded, the keypad lighting up with a quick pattern of green. The bolt slid back with a heavy click that echoed through the quiet room. Slowly, the door opened. Cassian walked in, not with more guards, but with a tray in his hands. Tea, toast, something that smelled real and warm. He set it down on the low table, then looked at her like she was a problem he couldn't hand to anyone else. "Sit," he said. "We need to talk about why your life is at risk." "Start talking," Makina said, "because your life is at risk is not enough." She stayed standing. He sat. "Reeve Global didn't start with this view," Cassian said. "It started with factories, cheap housing blocks, things my father called charity homes." "Sounds sweet," she said. "You make it sound dirty." "On paper it was sweet," he replied. Low rent, kids' programs, my mother smiling in newsletters. And off paper? Off paper, it was cost-cutting, he said. Old wiring, thin walls, safety budgets sliced so our stock price looked good. She crossed her arms tighter. Rich men save money. Poor people pay the price. I get it. Where do I come in? Where my mother tried to shove us back toward decent, he said. She built something called the Phoenix Project. Extra support for families in those buildings. Food, school help, events. She wanted the kids to feel chosen, not charity. He studied her. She asked me to design them a symbol, a small mark they could wear. The Phoenix, Makina said. He nodded. I drew broken wings, rising. We printed it on bracelets and posters. Those kids lined up for hours. They thought it meant, "You're safe now." His jaw tightened. Then one of the buildings burned. Fire brushed the back of her mind again. Orange on a ceiling, choking air, someone pulling her arm. The images vanished before they formed. How many died? She asked. Enough to fill headlines, he said. Insurance called it an accident. My father called it unfortunate. And you? I called it what it was, he said. The bill for every corner my family cut. He looked down. My mother called it a curse. She collected every drawing bracelet copy of that mark and burned them, swore it would never touch skin. Makina let out a breath. Except it did, she said. Mine? Exactly, he answered. I told you how, she said. Ink Haven, 18th birthday. I saw it in a binder. I liked the design. End of story. Ink Haven burned the same year as that building, he said. Owner dead. No reason for my sketch to ever leave our house. Then maybe someone copied it from TV, she argued. Our lawyers blurred it, he said. If anyone saw a clear version, it was from inside our systems. So you think I what? Broke into your family computer when I was a kid, she snapped. I was busy sharing one plate of rice with my brother. I think you remember pieces, he said, and someone else remembers all of it. Her pulse jumped. Someone else? Like who? Someone who knew the Phoenix symbol before you did, he answered. Someone who wanted it living, not buried. She laughed once, dry. No one plans anything around me. I mop their floors. They don't even learn my name. Years earlier, in a cramped office, a little girl ran her finger over a bird sticker while adults signed forms. A worker peeled the sticker off a file stamped with Reeves' logo and pressed it to the girl's wrist. You're part of Phoenix now, she said. Makina had no memory of that. Cassian leaned forward. How did that symbol end up on your body? He asked again. I just liked the design, she said, but the words shook. It felt strong, like maybe I wasn't stuck forever. That feeling was the whole point of the project, he said, which means whoever put that drawing where you'd see it knew exactly what it would do. Her throat tightened. You keep saying whoever like there's some ghost pulling strings. Because there is, he said. The fires, the cover-ups, the timing of you walking into my tower with that mark. None of it is random. So what am I to them? She asked. A message? A weapon? Maybe both, he said. What I know is this. Some people will want you silent, and others will want you loud on their terms. And you? I'm trying not to let either side write your story without you, he said, which means you need the parts they hid. He reached into his jacket and took out a thin folder, edges soft from handling. When we hired you, the background pull hit something old, he said. Sealed records, names my security chief never should have seen. He set the folder on the table between them. I didn't want to show you this, Cassian said, but you deserve to know who you were before they tried to erase you." She flipped the folder open with both hands like it might explode. First page, a photo. A little girl with crooked braids and a gap-toothed smile stared up at her. She held a crumpled sheet of paper with a rough bird drawn on it, broken wings, rising, almost exactly like the ink now on Makina's back. Underneath, typed and fading. Name, Makina Wanjiru. Age 5. Program Phoenix Project. Building 12. Makina's chest tightened. "No," she whispered. "That's not me." "You were 5 there," Cassian said. "Opening day. My mother took that picture herself." She shook her head. "My name is Makina Porter. We never lived in anything called Building 12. He reached over and turned the page. Tenant list. Her mother's full name. Under it, dependent, Makina W, Unit 4B. At the bottom, the owner stamp, Reeve Global Properties. Her stomach dropped. "I don't remember this," she said. "I'd remember being part of some project with a logo." "You remember peeling paint and coughing at night," he replied. "You told me that. That was Building 12. "That was just being broke," she snapped. "Everybody I knew lived like that." He turned to the next sheet. "After the fire at 12, your file jumps. Building 27, other side of the city, same owner stamp." Another page. Building 34. Same pattern. "You've been in our system longer than you know," Cassian said. "Your whole path, housing, shelters, the factory where your mother worked, runs through us." She let out a bitter laugh. "So what? You expect a thank you for the mold?" "No," he said. "I expect anger. You deserve it." She looked back at the photo. The little girl's eyes felt too close, too knowing. "I don't remember this day," Makina whispered. "I don't remember anyone giving me a bird drawing. I don't remember your mother." "Trauma edits," he said. "It cuts scenes you can't carry and leaves you with the weight instead." "That's easy to say from a penthouse," she shot back. "I was busy counting pills with my aunt." He flinched, then reached for the back section of the folder. "There's more," he said. "Factory logs, a brief incident report, workers injured, 1 child present, name blocked out in black ink. Under the block, faint letters still showed through. Mac. "Stop," she said, pressing her hand over the page. "Don't say it. I get it. Your company was on the wall every time my life fell apart." How many kids grew up in these buildings without ever learning whose hands built the cracks? The thought cut through her. How many kids grow up inside systems built on someone else's greed and never find out who really pulled the strings? If that question sits heavy, you're already part of this story. She took her hand away. Her childhood, the fire, the moves. It all lined up around a bird she'd thought she chose at 18. "So I was one of your mother's Phoenix kids," she said slowly. And then, "What? You lost track of me?" "We lost track of a lot of you," Cassian admitted. "Files misplaced, programs merged. My father saw numbers, not faces. And now? Now one of those files walked back into my building with the symbol my mother swore she destroyed burned into her skin," he said. "And I have to ask what that means, for you and for everyone who wants this buried." Her pulse hammered. "It still doesn't explain how the symbol came back," she said. "I went to a tattoo shop, picked it from a book, that's all." "It explains one thing," he said. "You weren't random. Someone made sure that design found you again." "I've been a maid, a cashier, a temp," she said softly. "I thought I was invisible." "You were invisible to the people who benefited from that," he replied. "Not to whoever kept you on the board." Before she could speak again, Cassian's phone buzzed against the table. He frowned and picked it up. One notification, then a second, then more, stacking on top of each other. His eyes scanned the screen. All color drained from his face. "What now?" McKenna asked, already bracing. "What else can go wrong tonight?" He didn't answer right away. His thumb trembled once on the glass. The story had leaked. Finally, he turned the phone toward her. A headline in harsh, bold letters glared back at both of them. Leaked. Reeve Air's secret plan to expose company corruption and burn his own legacy. "The board just turned me into a headline," Cassian said, before I could open my mouth. The phone lay between them, screen lit, her reflection warped around the words secret plan to expose company corruption, burn his own legacy. McKenna dragged her eyes from it. Who knew about this plan? 8 people, he said, me and 7 men who like their bonuses. So the leak came from that room, she said, from someone rich, scared, or both. He nodded once. Someone who wants to write the script before I get on camera. And the script is simple, she added. You're the ungrateful son tearing down your father's name. If they paint me as unstable, Cassian said, anything I say about the fires sounds like revenge, not truth. And me? You're whatever they need you to be, he replied. A bitter maid, an employee I manipulated, or a one-line tragedy they use to prove I'm dangerous. Her stomach flipped. You think they'd really let something happen to me and call it a footnote? Someone once signed off on wiring that turned kids' rooms into ovens, he said. That signature sits in the same circle as this leak. The room seemed to shrink. If this leak stands alone, he went on, tapping the edge of the phone, they make me the story and the company the victim. So if you talk, you're crazy, she said. If you stay quiet, you're loyal. Either way, they walk away clean. Unless someone they never planned for speaks, he answered. Her gaze dropped to the folder, to the little girl with crooked braids and a drawn bird, to the building number stamped over and over. You mean me, McKenna said. You've lived every shortcut they hid, he told her. You moved when buildings broke. You buried a mother who worked under our name. And ended up mopping your pool, she said. Feels like a sick joke. It feels like design, he replied. Maybe not mine, maybe not even my father's alone, but design. She swallowed. If I stand next to you and talk, they will tear into my life, my family, our debt, every address we ever had. They will, he agreed. They'll try to make you look small, greedy, confused, anything but credible. And when the cameras leave, she asked, you go back upstairs. I go back to trying to buy an inhaler. I could move you, he said. New city, new name, enough money to stay out of their reach. And leave everyone else in your buildings behind, she shot back. Let another girl grow up under a ceiling that can kill her? If the people who did you wrong owned every microphone in the room, would you still have the courage to tell your side? The question pressed on both of them. You asked what this has to do with you, Cassian said. It's this. They already put you in the story the second that camera caught your back. The only choice left is whether you speak for yourself or let them talk for you. McKenna pictured Auntie waiting for a call that wouldn't come, pictured Quito's small chest rising and falling in a room built with the same kind of cheap choices, pictured that child in the photo, holding a bird she didn't understand. I never wanted to be anyone's symbol, she whispered. Not yours, not theirs. I just wanted enough to survive the month. I don't need a symbol, he said. I need a witness. Someone they can't pretend is a rumor. Her throat burned. If I say no, I still go at them, he said. but alone, easier to frame as guilt, easier to bury. And if I say yes, she said slowly, I don't get my old life back. No, he said, you don't. What do I get? A chance to change what happens to the next kid stamped into one of these files, he answered. It wasn't comfort. It was a line in the sand. Choices don't wait for you to be ready. They stand in front of you and demand an answer. Cassian turned the phone face down. The headline vanished, but the choice didn't. We stop playing defense, he said. We walk into that boardroom and light a match. He held her gaze, no title, no distance, just the man with the last name on the building and the woman with its secret on her skin. I can't do it without you, he said. Again, Cassian said. Who are you in that room? Makina stood in front of the window, city lights behind her like a jury. She forced her shoulders back. My name is Makina Wanjiru, she said. I grew up in your buildings. I buried my mother because of your shortcuts. I am not a rumor in your reports. Good, he said. Now they interrupt. His tone turned cold. Miss Wanjiru, are you sure you're remembering correctly? Traumatic events distort memory. Her chest tightened. She breathed in for 4, out for 4. What I'm sure of, she answered, is mold on the walls, sirens at night, and my mother not coming home. You can argue numbers. You can't argue that. Cassian nodded once. Stay with what they can't twist. He paced the suite, jacket off, sleeves rolled. Next, he said, they'll go after your motives. Isn't it true you're doing this for money? I am broke. I do need money, she said. Say that, he replied, but don't stop there. She lifted her chin. Yes, I need money, she said. Poor people needing money isn't a scandal. Hiding deaths to keep your stock price pretty is. His mouth twitched. That line will make at least 3 of them choke. A rap hit the door, sharp. Cassian's gaze flicked over. Later, he called. Footsteps faded. See? He said. Pressure, noise. They'll try to rattle you before you speak. I already rattle easy, she muttered. Half the time I feel like my bones are made of loose change. Then we teach them to stack, he said. Again. Miss Wanjiru, did Mr. Reeve coach you into saying these things? She exhaled. No, she said. He didn't teach me that my ceiling leaked when it rained. He didn't make up the fire that took my mother. He's not giving me memories. He's finally listening to them. Cassian watched her. Better, he murmured. You're not performing. You're telling the truth. Her dead phone lay on the table, black screen up. Every few minutes her eyes slid to it, like she could force a signal bar to appear. Somewhere across the city, Auntie was checking the clock, calling her name into a small room. How am I supposed to stand in front of your board while my family doesn't even know where I am? She burst out. You'll still be rich if this blows up. I'll be the girl who vanished between her shift and the bus stop. Cassian's jaw flexed. I already had someone call your aunt, he said. Told her you picked up an overnight shift and your phone died. Makina's head snapped up. You called her? My assistant did, he said. But yes, she believed it. That's worse, Makina said. Now if I disappear tomorrow, she'll think I chose overtime over coming home. His eyes softened. I was trying to keep her from panicking tonight. Too late, Makina said. You don't know what it's like to always be small, to have your whole life depend on whether someone at the top changes their mind. He was quiet for a moment. You're wrong, he said softly. I do know. I grew up watching my father sign things that killed people and being too small to move his hand. She frowned. That's not the same. It is, he said. You were trapped on one side of the glass. I was trapped on the other. Same fire, different distance. The image lodged in her chest, two kids staring through opposite windows at the same burning building. If you had spoken then, would anyone have listened? She asked. He let out a short breath. No. That's why I need you now. The suite felt less like a cage and more like a war room. Files covered the table, names and dates lining up like weapons. A buzz broke the moment. His phone lit up. He glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted from focused to sharp. What? McKenna asked. The board moved the meeting, he said. Up. They want it in less than an hour. Her pulse jumped. So they're rushing to control the story before you can. Exactly, he said. He stepped closer and held out his hand to her across the table. Last chance, Cassian said. I can hide you instead. Different name, different city. You never have to see this logo again. The air between them felt knife-sharp. McKenna stared at his hand, heart pounding, every possible future stacked between his fingers and hers. Let's do it. McKenna heard herself before she believed herself. Her hand slid into Cassian's, warm and steady, and something inside her snapped into place. He gave the smallest nod. Choice made. Minutes later, they were in the private elevator, doors sealing shut with a soft sigh that felt too much like a line closing behind them. McKenna stared at their reflections in the metal. The maid uniform was gone, replaced by a plain black dress and blazer. The phoenix burned under the fabric between her shoulders, hidden from the cameras, not from her nerves. I'm terrified, she said. Good, Cassian answered. She frowned. How is that good? Fear means you know this matters, he said. We just don't let it make decisions. The elevator hummed upward. Floor numbers blinked and vanished. If I pass out in there, McKenna muttered, don't let them clip it for company training. If you pass out, I walk you out and make them stare at their own fire reports instead, he said. Her laugh came out thin, but it was something. On another elevator, two board members rode up together, faces tight. He's out of control, one hissed, talking about reopening cases. We frame it as grief and stress, the other replied. Vote him out before he can finish. And if he drags in some tenant? Let her cry, call it sad, write a check, move on. They stepped out already angry, already rehearsing how to twist the story. Back in the lift, McKenna gripped the rail. What if I open my mouth and nothing comes out? Then I talk first, Cassian said. You've seen me handle a room. Not comforting, she said. He looked at her. You don't owe them perfect, he said. You owe them what happened. That's enough. She thought of Auntie, of Quito, of every bill she'd folded and refolded with shaking hands. If you were sitting at that table, watching the truth walk in, would you look away or listen? The question hung there, meant for people she hadn't even met yet. The elevator slowed. The floor number above the door flashed the board level. Cassian drew a breath. Last reminders, he said. Breathe. Answer what you know. If you look at me, I look back. That's it? That's it, he said. The doors opened. The hallway outside the boardroom was all soft carpet and expensive quiet. Art sat behind glass. No cleaning carts. No noise but their steps. Two security guards stood by the double doors. They nodded at Cassian, then scanned McKenna with quick, measuring eyes. She straightened her shoulders without thinking. Cassian pushed the doors open. Voices stopped. A long table cut through the center of the room, lined with men in suits who turned as one. One older man frowned. "Cassian, this is a closed meeting," he said. "Housekeeping uses the service entrance." Another shook his head. "The market is bleeding and you bring props?" Heat climbed Makina's neck. For 1 second, she almost stepped back behind Cassian's shoulder. He didn't let her. "Relax," he said to the room. "She's not here to clean up after you." He set his tablet at the head of the table and tapped a button. The wall screen behind him lit up. Phoenix files filled the display. Building photos, tenant logs, case numbers. In the center, huge and sharp, the picture of little Makina with crooked braids holding the drawn bird appeared. A curse slipped out from the far end of the table. "That file was sealed," one board member snapped. "Who approved this?" "I did," Cassian said. "Sunlight's overdue." Chairs creaked. Pens clicked. Someone cleared his throat like the word Phoenix tasted bad. "Who is she?" another man demanded, chin jerking toward Makina. "Some actress you hired?" Makina's hands shook, but she kept them loose at her sides like he'd taught her. "She's not a prop," Cassian said. "She's one of the kids your signatures turned into statistics. If you were sitting at that table, watching the truth walk in, would you look away or listen?" Cassian let the silence stretch until it felt heavy. Every sharp eye in the room stayed locked on her. Then he turned from the screen to the board, and from the board to her. "She's not here to serve you," he said, voice even but sharp. "She's here to tell you what you did." He stepped just close enough that only she could hear the next words. "Show them," he whispered. Her fingers found the edge of the blazer before her mind caught up. If she stayed covered, she could pretend this was just a complaint. A maid venting in the wrong room. Easy to dismiss. So she did the opposite. Makina slipped the blazer off her shoulders and let it fall over the back of the chair. Gasps snapped around. The table the second the fabric dropped. The phoenix mark sat clear between her shoulder blades, framed by the simple black dress. Men who knew what it was went pale. The ones who didn't leaned forward. "That symbol was destroyed," an older board member whispered. "Your mother swore." "She missed one," Cassian said. Makina's heart hammered, but her voice came out steady. "My name is Makina Wanjiru," she said. "I grew up in your buildings." "In Building 12, she added. "The one from your reports, the one that caught fire." One man shifted, another checked the screen like the numbers might change. "I remember ceilings that leaked when it rained," Makina said. "Mold that climbed the walls, nights we slept in shoes because the alarms kept going off." "Miss Wanjiru," a board member cut in, "we have many tenants. Conditions vary. Is it possible?" "No," she said. "It's not possible I'm mixing it up. I remember that logo on the gate and on the paper on our door when the rent jumped. I remember my mother saying, 'We don't complain, we just survive.'" She took a breath. "You called it charity," she said. "It felt like a trap." A muscle in Cassian's jaw jumped, but he stayed silent. "I watched my mother come home, coughing from your factory," Makina went on. "She said the masks were too expensive this month. She said the wiring sparked, but the supervisor told them to ignore it unless the flames got high." "That's not official policy," another man snapped. "But it was real," she replied. "Your logos were on the walls when the sirens came, on the ambulance forms, on the hospital bills that kept showing up even after my mother stopped breathing." She didn't raise her voice. The quiet made every word sharp. "I was 5 in your Phoenix photo," Makina said, nodding toward the screen. You cut ribbons and handed us drawings that said we were safe. Then your buildings burned, your wires failed, and your lawyers called it unfortunate." One man rubbed his forehead. Another scribbled notes he'd never read. "I didn't know any of this had a name," she said. "I thought it was just life. Bad luck. Whatever grown people say to make pain sound normal." Her gaze swept the suits. "It wasn't bad luck," she said. "It was choices. You chose cheaper pipes, cheaper wiring, cheaper safety. You chose risk for us and profit for you." A board member slammed his pen down. "You don't understand the complexity of running an international." "I understand counting coins for an inhaler while your logo shines on the tallest tower," McKenna said. "I understand burying my mother in a box I had to borrow money for. I understand cleaning your floors while you host events in rooms built on the bones of people like her." The room went quiet, not respectful, cornered. "If you're watching this," the thought rose, "and you're thinking of a hallway, a bill, a person you lost because someone higher up saved $1, you already know whose side you're on." "Turn the cameras off," one man barked, spotting the red light. "This is internal business." Cassian spoke for the first time since she began. "They're not just cameras," he said. "It's a live stream." Several men shot to their feet. "You did what?" "You leaked your story about me," Cassian said. "I figured the least I could do was give the truth the same audience." "You'll ruin us," another hissed. "Years of reputation, gone." "Your reputation was built on math that ignored bodies," he said. "It deserves to fall." "We'll sue," someone snapped. "We'll say she's unstable, that you exploited her, that this is a stunt." Cassian reached into his bag, pulled out an envelope, and laid it in the center of the table. "That," he said, "is my resignation." The room froze. "I'd rather lose my title than keep your secrets," he said. Nobody moved at all. Then a board member at the far end leaned forward, eyes cold. "You think this makes you a hero?" he snarled. "You handed your company to the wolves." Board members exploded all at once. "You've ruined the stock," one shouted. "Do you even understand what you've done?" "My grandfather built this company," another barked. "You are torching his legacy on a live stream." A third jabbed a finger at the resignation envelope. "You think walking out makes you clean? You were CEO when this went public. The blood is on your hands, Cassian." Cassian let them rage. He didn't reach for the envelope. He didn't defend himself. He waited until the noise peaked, then tapped his tablet. The wall screen jumped from photos of burned buildings to clean black text. Legal language filled the display, lines of small print with one section highlighted in white. "Sit down," he said. "You're shouting at the wrong person." "What is this now?" someone snapped. He didn't look at them. He looked at McKenna. "This," Cassian said, "is the part my mother never told you." He enlarged a heading. "Phoenix Reconstruction Fund. Trust Instrument." Beneath it, a clause glowed. "In the event of catastrophic failure of any Phoenix-designated property, controlling authority over this fund and associated shares shall pass to—" The line seemed to trail off into nothing. Then the cursor dragged down. Beneficiary. McKenna Wanjiru. The room went dead silent. Even the air felt stunned. McKenna stared at the screen. Her name didn't look like hers next to all that polished language. It looked like it belonged to some version of her who didn't shake when rent was due. "This has to be a mistake," a board member said. "Some clerical error." "It's not," Cassian said. "My mother set it up after the fire. She pulled control out of the board's reach and buried it where you'd never bother to look. In the hands of a child you forgot. "You gave a stranger control?" another man demanded. "Over our restructuring? Over our shares?" "I didn't give her anything," Cassian said. "My mother did. She tied a chunk of this company to the survival of one of the kids you called collateral damage." Makina shook her head hard, as if she could fling the words off. "I don't want your money," she said. "I don't want your fund, your shares, any of this." Cassian's gaze softened. "This isn't a gift," he said quietly. "It's a weapon my mother left for whoever lived long enough to hold it." On the screen, numbers scrolled, buildings scheduled for repair, debts marked for payout, blocks of stock that could force or block votes. Imagine finding out the same system that nearly broke you also left you the keys to rebuild it. What would you do with that kind of power? "This is insane," a man near the end of the table said. "We cannot hand control of billions to some angry girl from a housing block." "That angry girl grew up breathing the mold you signed off on," Cassian replied. "She's the only one at this table who paid for your choices with more than money." "She'll destroy us," another snapped. "She'll bleed the company dry trying to play savior." Makina's hands trembled. Power on a screen was still just light, but it pressed on her chest like weight. "I clean floors," she said softly. "I take buses. I'm late on rent. I stretch one bowl between 3 people. I am not built for this." "One?" Cassian said. "You're already carrying more than most of us ever have. 2? This isn't about being built for it. It's about who should be trusted to decide what rebuilding looks like." He stepped closer, lowering his voice for her, even as every man at the table leaned in to hear. "You can fire me," he said. "Right here, on this live stream. You can sign my resignation, take the fund, sell the shares, disappear. No one would blame you for choosing peace." Her eyes burned. "And then what?" "Then I fight as a private citizen," he said. "I drag our name through every court I can. It will be slower, bloodier. You'll see the headlines, but you won't be in them." "And if I stay?" she asked. "Then we use the fund," he said. "We pull buildings apart and rebuild them right. We pay people who should have been paid years ago. We force this company to stand in the mess it made." A board member scoffed. "Listen to him. He's asking you to set yourself on fire for people who will still blame you when their routines change." Tears blurred the screen. Makina blinked them back, refusing to let these men see her crumble. She looked at her name under beneficiary again, at the word reconstruction, at the small, quiet power hidden in lines they never thought she would read. Her gaze slid to Cassian. He watched her without pressure, like he meant it when he said she could walk. For the first time in her life, the choice in front of her was not survive or fall. It was safe or right. She stood there, caught between the life she knew and the fire he was offering, feeling both fear and something that almost felt like calling pull at her from opposite sides. Tears gathered at the edge of her lashes as she whispered, more to herself than to him, "What am I supposed to do with this?" "I can't breathe in here," Makina thought. Her name glowed on the screen beside numbers big enough to buy streets. The boardroom smelled like polished wood and old power. Her body smelled like nerves and cheap soap. In her mind, 2 worlds fought. One was a tiny kitchen, Auntie at the table counting pills, lips moving in prayer. Kito's wheeze in the next room, the little plastic inhaler between his fingers. Peace there meant rent paid, medicine bought, no surprises. The other world was fire, Building 12. A hallway full of smoke, a mother shaking her awake while alarms screamed. "Makina," Cassian said softly beside her. "You don't have to answer right now. We can walk out." She kept her eyes on the screen, on Phoenix Reconstruction Fund, on the board members who had never once written her name until it could hurt them. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why throw away everything? You were born to win in this room." Her voice cut through the tension like a wire snapping. Cassian didn't flinch. "Winning the wrong game still means losing your soul," he said. "I've been doing that since I signed my first contract. I'm done." A board member scoffed. "Spare us the sermon." Makina turned to him. "You want numbers?" she asked. "Try this. One mother, dead. One kid, coughing. One girl who thought she was just unlucky when it was you all along." Another man leaned forward. "Listen, Miss Wanjiru, you are overwhelmed. A fund in your name does not mean you're equipped to manage it. Let us guide this. Sign over authority. We'll handle the repairs." "You handled everything before," she said. "Look how that turned out." They started talking over each other. Lawsuits, regulators, crisis teams. Words like fiduciary duty and shareholder value filled the air. She took a breath. In for 4. Out for 4. Then she stepped away from Cassian's shadow and faced the whole table. "You keep talking like this place is yours," Makina said. "But you built it on our backs, the kids in those photos, the parents who took jobs in your factories because you were the only game on the block." She nodded at the screen. "Your system tried to erase us. You moved us like pieces until some of us fell off the board. You thought no one would care." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "We rebuild," she said, "but not with the people who burned us." One man slammed his hand on the table. "You don't decide that." "The trust says she does," Cassian replied. "Control triggers to her in the event of catastrophic failure. That's lawyer speak for the mess you signed off on." "We will bury you in court," another warned Makina. "Smear campaigns, investigations. We'll drag your family into this until you beg us to settle." Fear flashed cold in her stomach. She pictured Auntie getting calls from strange numbers. Quito's school whispering about news clips. Then she remembered the burned-out buildings. The kids' names lost in lines no one read aloud. "You already tried to erase me," she said quietly. "I'm still here." For a second, the whole room seemed to pause. Even the red light on the camera looked like it was holding its breath. On the live stream, people were watching. Tenants, workers, strangers. With this playing in the background, some of them were thinking of their own ceilings, their own erased stories. Silence stretched, then cracked. "Well," one board member said through clenched teeth, "the market will eat you alive. Regulators, activists, all of them. You've turned this company into blood in the water." Cassian looked at Makina instead of at him. "Partner, then?" he asked, voice low enough that it felt like a private vow even with the world listening. Her throat burned. This was not the life she had planned. Her plan was simple. Work, save, escape. Not stand beside a man like him and set a match to the people who wrote their lives. But Simple had died somewhere between Building 12 and the rooftop pool. Makina met his eyes. "Partner," she said, "for now." Somewhere far from the boardroom, in a dim office lit only by a laptop, someone watched the stream freeze on her face. A hand slammed the computer shut so hard the sound echoed. She took it, a low voice muttered. Of course she did. In the sudden dark, plans shifted. The fire she and Cassian had just chosen was not the only one coming. The first punch landed on a talk show couch. "Is she a hero or a liability?" a host asked. McKenna's face paused mid-sentence on the screen behind him. In another clip, a woman shook her head. "People lose loved ones every day. Turning grief into a media circus helps who?" Some called her brave. Others called her ungrateful. McKenna watched some of it on a cracked tablet in Cassian's office, eyes half-focused, mind numb. "You should stop reading those," he said, setting a coffee beside her. "You should stop reading the stock line," she shot back, nodding to his second monitor. Little red arrows stabbed downward. He slid her the mug and draped his jacket over the back of her chair when she shivered. Days blurred into a pattern. Morning meetings with lawyers and city inspectors. Afternoons with tenant groups who came carrying photos of broken elevators and black-stained ceilings. Nights in the office, papers spread, their frustrations snapping against each other like live wires. "We can't fix everything at once," Cassian argued one night, rubbing his temples. "We start with the worst buildings. The rest follows." Try telling that to a mom on the 4th floor who already sleeps with her kids by the door, McKenna said. "Every building feels like the worst one when you live in it." His phone buzzed. Another journalist request, another angry board member. He silenced it without looking and went back to the maps. Sometimes their voices rose. "You're thinking like a CEO again," she threw at him once. "Boards, budgets, optics. And you're thinking like someone who's spent her whole life reacting, not planning," he snapped back. "If we move without a plan, we fail bigger, and they win twice." Then one of them would sigh, and the other would slide a coffee across the table, or a takeout carton, or a blanket. Tiny, clumsy apologies. Outside their building, the story kept growing teeth. A tenant recorded a video in a damp hallway, water running down the walls behind her as she held up an old lease with the Reeve logo on it. An ex-electrician leaked emails showing how maintenance requests were closed without inspection. A former manager broke down on live TV, admitting he'd been told to keep costs low and complaints lower. Evidence piled up in their inbox. Screenshots, photos, names. If even one part of this scraped against your own life, a bill, a ceiling, a person you lost, imagine what it feels like to live it instead of just hear it. Stories like this don't belong locked in quiet rooms with closed doors and guarded smiles. But not everyone sending messages wanted justice. Anonymous emails promised lawsuits that would eat that maid alive. One late night, McKenna opened a message with no subject. 2 words sat inside. "Careful, Phoenix." She closed the laptop and stared out at the city. The same lights that had once made her feel small now felt like eyes, all of them watching to see if she would break. "Regretting it yet?" Cassian asked quietly from the doorway. "Every second," she said, "and not at all." He huffed a tired laugh. "That's about where I'm living, too." They left the office close to midnight, security already waiting by the private entrance. The air outside was cool, the city noise softer at that hour. McKenna slid into the back seat of the armored car, shoulders sagging. Cassian climbed in beside her, still reading something on his phone. "Tomorrow we meet the city housing board," he said. "They'll try to block us from labeling your old buildings as unsafe, too expensive for them." "Of course," she murmured, resting her head back. "Everyone loves truth until it costs them." The driver pulled away from the curb. Streetlights swept over the car in slow waves of gold and shadow. For the first time that day, Makina's eyes began to close. A crack like a gunshot tore through the quiet. The window beside her head spider-webbed in an instant, a white star blooming right where her temple had been a second earlier. "Down!" security shouted from the front. Cassian dropped his phone and grabbed her, dragging her off the seat as more tiny pops hit the glass. Her shoulder hit the floor. Shards rained around them like sharp, bright hail. "Makina!" he yelled over the chaos, one arm locked around her, the other shielding her head as the car swerved and the world dissolved into sirens and breaking glass. The sound of cracking glass wouldn't leave her head. Makina leaned against the rooftop rail, lungs stuttering like they still expected another shot. The city below glowed calm and indifferent, the same streets they'd crossed in a car that suddenly hadn't felt armored at all. She was back at the pool, drawn to the place where everything had started. The robe, the tattoo, the stare that changed her life. The water lay smooth and blue. No sirens, just the echo of her pulse in her ears. The door opened behind her. She didn't turn. "I said I needed space," she said, voice thin. "And I said you weren't supposed to be up here alone," Cassian answered. His footsteps came steady across the tiles. He stopped a couple of feet away. "How bad is it?" he asked. She let out a short, harsh laugh. "Almost dying in a car? New?" she said. "Almost dying slowly in your buildings? That's the old story. Guess the universe turned the volume up." He didn't try to argue. "I heard them yell my name," she went on. "All I could think was, if this is it, Auntie will believe I chose overtime over coming home. Not justice, just another shift I didn't finish." "Makina." "I am scared," she cut in. "And I'm tired. Tired of being brave for cameras and lawyers and tenants and for you. I was not born for boardrooms and gunshots. I was born for cleaning jobs, bus rides, and stretching rice for 3. He moved to her side, shoulder almost brushing hers. "There are days," Cassian said quietly, "when I wish you had never come to this roof." She turned, eyes sharp. "That's one way to say you regret hiring me." He shook his head. "Not because I don't want you here," he said. "Because if that robe had never slipped, if I'd never seen that mark, you might still hate me from far away. Poor, exhausted, invisible, but no one would be shooting at your window." "Safe?" she asked. "You call that safe? One rent hike from the street, one missed refill from losing keto, your logo on every paper that scared us. That's not safety. That's slow drowning." His jaw tightened. "You're right," he said. "You weren't safe. You were just quiet. We counted on that." Makina faced the pool again. Her fingers pushed her blazer off one shoulder until the phoenix mark felt the night air. "Look at it," she said. "This thing has followed me my whole life. First as a drawing I don't remember. Then as a tattoo I thought I chose because it looked strong. Now as a target someone is willing to put a hole in glass for." Cassian stepped closer. His hand lifted, hovered, then rested light at the top of her back, just over the ink. "It's not a curse," he said. "People did cursed things around it. This mark just refuses to let them forget." Her shoulders eased under his palm, then tensed again. "The night I drew it, I thought it meant hope," he went on. "Rise again. My mother believed we could fix what my family broke. Then Building 12 burned, and all I saw in that shape was failure." "You did fail us," she whispered. "All of you did." "I know," he said. "When I saw it on your back, I saw every kid we lost, and one we didn't. A second chance I don't deserve, standing by my pool with a robe slipping out of her hands. She turned toward him. The pool lights painted soft blue across his face, dulling the hard mask he wore for everyone else. "You're grateful my life blew up?" she asked. "I'm grateful you survived long enough to blow mine up too," he said, "that you're here instead of being another name in an old report." Their breathing slowed together. His thumb traced the edge of the mark once before he stilled it. "You know," he murmured, "you don't owe me anything. Not the fund, not the fight, not one more minute beside me. You can walk away whenever you want." Her eyes burned. The city roared below them, but this moment felt separate from all of it. "Then why?" Makina whispered, voice raw. "Am I still choosing you?" He didn't answer, but the way he looked at her, like she was the only solid thing left in a world finally cracking open, said more than any promise he could have made. "Your building failed every test," Makina said, sliding the report across the table. "Families move out now, before the ceiling decides for them." The landlord's jaw worked. Months ago, she would have shrunk. Now she held his gaze until his shoulders fell, and he signed. 3 weeks had passed since the stream. In that time, red tags went up on doors that had leaked for years. Crews moved people out at midnight. Money flowed from the new fund, each payment a small weight off old ghosts. Executives who once smirked at her now packed boxes under security's eye. Makina walked into rooms with a tablet instead of a mop bucket. Tenants spoke and she listened, then made other people listen too. That night, she stood on the top floor balcony with Cassian, the city spread beneath them like a board. "Remember when you just cleaned floors?" he asked. "I still like clean floors," she said. "I'm just choosing which buildings deserve to stand." "They tried to make you a pawn," he said. "Pawns who survive the board reach the other side," she answered. "Then they become anything they want." "So, what are you now?" he asked. She thought of home, of tenants' voices, of files still waiting. "Not their victim," Makina said. "Not your maid either." She looked toward the dark blocks no one had touched yet, the phoenix warm between her shoulders. "I'm not done moving," she murmured. "The Queen's just getting started."